So I made a critical error last night. I tried to eat dinner while watching FOX.
Oh, no. I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually a safe bet, right? Sunday night, you've got the NFL winding down, maybe a cartoon. But I completely forgot what date it was. I forgot that January 2026 is the month that something I thought we'd left in the 2000s with frosted tips has come back.
You're talking about the unhappy hour, aren't you?
I am talking about the return of Fear Factor. But it's not just Fear Factor anymore. It's
Right.
Fear Factor, House of Fear. And let me tell you, my spaghetti bolognese did not stand a chance. I was watching this Wrecking Ball episode that aired on Wednesday, and I found myself like physically recoiling from my own television.
But you kept watching.
But I couldn't turn it off. And that's it, right? That's the whole magic trick, that magnetic pull of something that is just utterly repulsive.
It really is. It's a fascinating paradox.
And that's exactly what I want to dig into today. Because watching Johnny Knoxville, of all people, presiding over this chaos, watching people willingly sign up for things that should, biologically send them running for the hills, it just sparked this huge question for me.
Why do we do this?
Exactly. And not even why do they do it? I mean, we know why they do it. There's a cash prize, however modest.
Right.
I mean, why do we, the viewers, do it? Why did millions of people, myself included, stay tuned after a football game to watch other human beings suffer?
It's a profound question, really. You're basically talking about the monetization of anxiety and disgust.
Yes. So, for everyone listening, this isn't going to be just a simple recap of a reality show. You can get that on social media.
For sure.
We're doing a proper deep dive. We're taking this reboot, this so-called social experiment, and we're going to use it as a key to unlock some really weird doors in the human brain. And the stack of research we've got here is, honestly, it's a little intimidating.
It's a heavy stack. And it's not just, the usual entertainment sites like popculture.com or Screen Rant, though we have those here for the basic context.
We need the basics.
We do, but we're going much deeper. We've got this incredible academic paper from the International Journal of TV Serial Narratives that completely breaks down what I call the meta-emotional experience of watching horror.
That one paper honestly changed the way I watch scary movies forever. I can't unsee it now.
It's dense, but it's brilliant. And then we have a comprehensive thesis on the aesthetics and psychology of horror that gets into the actual mechanics, like how sound engineers and cinematographers are literally, and I mean literally, hacking your nervous system.
It's wild. So here's the roadmap for today. First, we're going to tackle the show itself, what's new about this fear factor, who's involved, and we have to talk about the unhappy hour stunt that ruined my dinner.
We have to.
Then we're pivoting into the psychology, the why, the paradox of disgust. Why do we enjoy being grossed out?
And from there, the biology.
Yes, the how. The startle circuits in your spine, the non-linear noise that tricks your brain into thinking you're being eaten by a predator.
It's amazing stuff.
And finally, we're going to look to the future, a field called neurocinematics, which it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi thriller.
It really does. It's that blurry, slightly uncomfortable line where science and art just start to merge.
So buckle up. We're about to dive into the House of Fear.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Section 1, the reboot. If you haven't seen it, let's set the stage. The show officially premiered on January 11th, 2026, and the network, FOX, was very, very clever about the placement.
Oh, incredibly strategic.
They put it on right after an NFL wildcard game. You've got this massive captive audience. Their blood is already pumping. They're full of adrenaline from the game.
It's the classic lead-in strategy. You take an audience that's already in a state of high physiological arousal, their heart rate is up, they're invested in the competition, and you just sort of seamlessly transfer that energy to a different kind of spectacle.
And the face of that new spectacle is Johnny Knoxville. Now, I grew up watching Jackass. I remember the shopping carts, the bulls in the department store, just the absolute and total disregard for personal safety.
Of course.
So seeing him host Fear Factor, it feels weirdly correct. Like, if anyone on this planet has earned the right to calmly instruct someone to drink a blended sheep's eyeball, it's the guy who has probably already done it himself for a $5 bet.
It's a massive shift in tone, isn't it? You
Well,
think back to the Joe Rogan era, which was very intense, very conquer your demons.
Drill sergeant.
Yes, exactly. Or even the Ludacris era, which was a bit more slick and produced.
Yeah.
Knoxville brings something else entirely.
He does. I saw this quote from the executives, Michael Thorne at FOX and Sharon Levy at Endemol Shine. They called him the champion of fearless entertainment. And, They're not wrong.
His whole career is built on confronting fear, but specifically for comedic effect.
That's the key distinction, I think. Rogan was a hype man. You can do this, bro. Push through it. Knoxville feels more like a trickster god, the god of chaos. He knows it's absurd. He knows it hurts. And he's laughing with you, but also definitely a little bit at you.
He brings a layer of surreal, anarchic comedy to the whole proceeding.
Yeah.
But really, the biggest change isn't even the host. It's the entire format of the show.
Right. The old show was, for lack of a better word, an anthology.
Heavily episodic.
3 stunts, new contestants every week. You show up, you do your thing, you go home, boom, done. This is House of Fear.
A whole different beast.
They filmed it in Britannia Beach, British Columbia, which, by the way, looks absolutely beautiful and simultaneously freezing cold in every single shot.
And they took 14 contestants and just locked them in a house together.
So now you don't just show up, eat a tarantula, and leave with your check. No. You have to eat the tarantula, and then you have to go back to the house and sleep in a bunk bed next to the guy who you think is trying to sabotage you.
It's the realityfication of the stunt show. They're pulling directly from the playbooks of Survivor or Big Brother.
Oh, completely.
The production notes we looked at explicitly mention this new social strategy element. Contestants have to form alliances, they have to navigate house politics, and they have to vote people out. It's a whole new layer of psychological stress.
Which brings us to the critical reception, because not everyone is a fan of this change. I was reading this review on Pajiba that was scathing, might be putting it mild.
I saw that one. They did not hold back.
Not at all. The reviewer's headline basically called it The Real Housewives of Fear Factor.
Ouch. That's a harsh label.
It's harsh, but I kind of get their point. The argument was that by injecting all this manufactured house drama, you dilute the purity of the fear.
The purity of the stunt.
Exactly. Suddenly you're cutting away from someone dangling off a helicopter to a scene of 2 people whispering in a bedroom saying these cliched reality lines like, I'm not here to make friends, or at the end of the day, it's a game.
And the critics' argument, if I remember, was that it strips away that raw, visceral nature of the original show and just replaces it with cheap, predictable social friction.
That was the argument. Is it a valid one? I don't know. It's a real shift in focus. Are we watching for the adrenaline of the stunt, or are we watching for the petty arguments about who left their wet towel on the floor?
It splits the viewer's focus. The original show was so almost clinical in its approach to fear. It was you versus the task.
Yeah.
Just pure human will against a physical or psychological obstacle.
Man versus bug.
Man versus bug. Now it's you versus the bug versus the 3-person alliance that's trying to get you voted out next week.
It's much more complicated. But based on what I saw in the Wrecking Ball episode, I can tell you the adrenaline is definitely still there.
Really?
We have to talk about this unhappy hour stunt.
Okay, lay it on me. I've only read the description, which was graphic.
The description doesn't do it justice. It's almost medieval.
Right.
So picture this giant, colorful wheel, like from a game show. The contestants spin it, and it lands on a combination. One disgusting solid and one disgusting liquid. And we're not talking, spinach and V8. We're talking about the most foul, repulsive things the producers could legally source.
The classic fear factor menu of terror.
Yes. But it's the game mechanics that make it so sadistic. There are 2 rounds. If you win the first round by chugging your concoction the fastest, you're safe from elimination.
It's okay.
If you lose the second round, you're eliminated from the show. But, and this is the rule that made me put my fork down, if you vomit into your glass while you were drinking,
Oh, God.
you have to drink the vomit.
That's biologically engineered torture.
It gets worse. If you turn your head and vomit outside the glass onto the floor, they just refill the glass to the top. There's no escape.
Wow. Okay, so they are weaponizing the body's most basic defense mechanism against itself.
Explain that.
Well, vomiting is a survival instinct, right?
Yeah.
Your body detects something it perceives as a toxin, and its immediate involuntary response is, get this out of me right now.
Eject! Eject!
Exactly. This game forces you to consciously, with all your willpower, override one of your most fundamental, hardwired survival protocols. That's a specific kind of psychological warfare.
And watching them struggle, the veins popping in their foreheads, the sheer physical exertion of just keeping that liquid down, it was horrified fascination at its most potent.
I can only imagine.
Which brings me to the prize money, because you'd think for that level of torment, the prize would be life-changing. Do you know what the total pot is for this entire season?
I did see it. It's $200,000, right?
200 grand. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money. If someone handed me $200,000, my life would be better.
Of course.
But I did a little math. The original Fear Factor premiered way back in 2001. The prize for a single episode was $50,000.
Okay.
If you adjust that $50,000 for inflation, it comes out to something like $90,000 in today's money.
$90,000 for one episode.
For one day's work, this new show is a multi-week commitment. You're living in this house, you're being psychologically tortured by your housemates, you're eating vomit for a total pot of $200,000 that only one person wins.
So when you break it down like that, let's call it the hourly wage for trauma has gone down significantly.
It's plummeted. The Pajiba review pointed this out too. It called the prize modest for the level of degradation involved. And it makes you wonder, what's the real motivation for the people signing up? Is it the money or is it the exposure?
I think with the new house format, the fame calculation has to be higher.
How so?
On the old show, you were on TV for 40-something minutes, and then you pretty much vanished. You were that person who ate the spider. Here, you're a recurring character for an entire season. You can build a brand. You can launch an influencer career off of that appearance.
So you suffer not for the cash, but for the future TikTok followers.
It's a different kind of currency.
A different and maybe more valuable one in 2026. Okay, let's pivot. We've established the show is gross, the host is a chaos agent, and the prize is, let's say, questionable.
A fair summary.
But millions of us, including me, are watching, so why? This brings us to the real heart of this deep dive, the paradox of disgust.
This is one of my absolute favorite topics in media psychology because it seems so completely counterintuitive.
Okay, so set the table for us. What exactly is the paradox?
The foundation of it comes from this fantastic paper by Alberto and Garcia. He was focusing on the TV show Hannibal, which is, a very different kind of show. Very high art, scripted, beautiful gore.
Beautiful gore.
But the psychological mechanism is identical. The paradox is this. Disgust is, by its very nature, a negative, aversive emotion.
Right, it's an avoidance response.
Exactly. Evolution gave us the feeling of disgust to keep us safe. It's the little alarm in your brain that says, don't eat that rotten meat, or don't touch that diseased corpse.
Yeah.
It keeps us from getting sick.
It's a biological safety system. Warning, do not engage, you might die.
Precisely. So logically, human beings should actively avoid any media that triggers that feeling. We should change the channel, leave the theater, put the book down. But we don't. We actively seek it out. We pay money for the experience. The paradox is, why do we willingly, even enthusiastically, pursue an experience that is definitionally unpleasant?
It's kind of like spicy food, right? I was thinking about this. Why do I load up my tacos with hot sauce when I know it's going to cause me physical pain?
That is actually the perfect analogy. Psychologists and philosophers have a term for this. They call it strong hedonic ambivalence.
Strong hedonic ambivalence. Okay, you have to break that down.
Okay, so hedonic just refers to pleasure. Ambivalence means having mixed or contradictory feelings. But the word strong is the key here. It's not that we enjoy the scary movie or the gross-out stunt despite the negative feelings. It's not, I'll tolerate the disgusting parts to get to the good parts.
So the pain isn't a bug, it's a feature.
It's a core feature. The theory of strong hedonic ambivalence argues that the disgust, the fear, the pain is an essential part of the pleasure itself. The unpleasantness contributes directly to the complex, positive experience.
So, back to my hot sauce analogy.
The burn of the chili pepper on your tongue triggers the release of endorphins, which are natural painkillers, and that creates a sense of euphoria that makes the whole meal more satisfying. With Fear Factor, the shock of the disgust creates a level of physiological arousal and intensity that contributes to the overall fun.
If you took the gross stunts out of Fear Factor, it wouldn't just be less gross, it would be
Boring. It would be an incredibly boring obstacle course. The pleasure and the pain create this complex emotional cocktail.
That makes a lot of sense. But that academic paper you mentioned, it went even deeper. It brought up this idea of meta-emotions. And I want to spend a minute here because this was a genuine aha moment for me.
Meta-emotions are a game changer for understanding this stuff. The concept is pretty simple. It's having an emotion about an emotion.
Okay, walk me through that.
So let's go back to you on the couch, watching the unhappy hour stunt. Your primary direct emotion, what the paper calls the atomic experience, is disgust. You see the blended whatever, you gag a little, that's a negative feeling.
Right. Gut reaction.
But your brain doesn't stop there. Almost instantaneously, you have a secondary emotion about the fact that you're feeling disgust.
So I'm sitting there gagging, but at the same time I'm thinking, What? What's the second layer?
Well, that paper identifies 4 different dimensions of this meta-response. The first one is simple, enjoyment. You might feel a sense of thrill or, just plain fun that you're being stimulated this intensely. You might even laugh at your own reaction.
Oh, that happens all the time. I'll jump out of my seat during a jump scare, and then I immediately giggle because I can't believe I fell for it.
That giggle is the meta-emotion of enjoyment. The second dimension is suspense. This is pure physiological arousal, the tension of are they going to puke or will the hero escape? It creates this high-stakes feeling that keeps you absolutely glued to the screen.
Arousal as in, not a bad thing.
No, not at all. Arousal, just as in an elevated state of alertness, your heart's beating faster, you're paying attention. The third dimension is appreciation. This is a little more intellectual. You might be watching that stunt and thinking, wow, the sheer audacity of the producers to even dream this up is incredible. You appreciate the craft or the boldness of it.
I definitely felt that. I was sitting there literally thinking, who sat in a writer's room and got this idea approved?
And that feeling of wonder, that's a form of pleasure.
Yeah.
You're engaging with the text of the show on a critical level.
Mm-hmm.
And the fourth dimension is artistic value.
Which probably applies more to a show like Hannibal than Fear Factor.
For sure. With Hannibal, or a film like Midsommar, you can appreciate the beautiful cinematography of a grotesque image. With Fear Factor, the artistic value might be lower, but the principle holds. You are deriving a positive meta-emotion gratification, appreciation, fun from a negative direct emotion.
So our brains are essentially multitasking emotionally. We're feeling grossed out and impressed at the same time.
We are. And on top of all that, we're often patting ourselves on the back for being tough enough to handle it. There's a real sense of mastery involved. I watched this and I didn't have to turn away. I'm strong enough.
That's a great point. It's like a badge of honor. Which leads perfectly into the next major theory here, which is the excitation transfer theory. This is from Dr. Dolph Zillman.
Yes, this theory is absolutely critical for understanding why we feel so good after the scary or disgusting thing is over. It's all about the aftermath.
So what did Zillman propose?
He argued that physiological arousal, the pounding heart, the sweaty palms, the adrenaline coursing through your veins, is actually very slow to decay. It doesn't just switch off like a light.
Meaning once my body is all ramped up, it takes a good while for it to calm back down to baseline?
Exactly. So let's use a different stunt as an example. The premiere had a stunt where they vacuum-sealed contestants inside giant sheets of plastic wrap.
Oh, I saw that. Claustrophobic.
Terribly. So you're watching, you're feeling anxious for them, you're maybe even holding your breath. Your system is flooded with arousal from the stress and fear. Then the horn sounds, they cut the bag open, the contestant gasps for air. They're safe.
And as a viewer, I feel this wave of relief.
But here's the key from Zillman. You don't just feel relief. All that leftover residual arousal from the fear has nowhere to go, so it gets transferred onto the next emotion you feel. It latches onto the relief and amplifies it.
So the relief feels way more intense than it normally would.
It feels euphoric. It's 10 times more powerful than the relief you'd feel if you just watched someone, say, finish a crossword puzzle. The preceding fear acts like a ramp that launches the subsequent positive emotion into the stratosphere.
So you have to pay the biological toll of fear to get the chemical high of the relief.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Now, there is a slightly darker theory that I think connects really specifically to this new house format. It's called dispositional alignment theory.
Ah, yes. This one is a bit more cynical about human nature. It basically suggests that our enjoyment of violence or suffering in media is heavily dependent on whether we feel the victim deserves it. It's a justice mechanism.
In a standard horror movie, this is super simple, right? The mean jock who bullies the main character gets killed by the monster in the first act, and the audience quietly cheers.
Right. It feels like karmic justice. Now, apply that to Fear Factor. In the old version, we didn't know the contestants. They were just random people from Ohio. We didn't really want them to suffer. We were just curious to see if they could complete the stunt.
They were just avatars for us.
But now we spend the first 20 minutes of the episode watching them in the house. We see them form alliances. We see someone lie to their friend to get ahead. We see them create a villain edit for themselves.
Oh, totally. If there's one contestant who is clearly being a jerk, backstabbing everyone, and then he's the one who has to drink the unhappy hour cocktail,
the audience is going to love it. Their natural disgust will be partially overridden by this feeling of satisfaction, this sense that justice is being served. The producers know this.
Yeah.
They're not just creating stunts anymore. They're engineering villains that you actively want to see get tortured.
That is. It's diabolical.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant from a production standpoint. It creates a moral permission structure for the audience to enjoy what is, at its core, sadism.
Precisely.
Okay, one last theory before we move to the mechanics. We have to touch on the car crash effect. Noel Carroll's work on curiosity.
Carroll's theory is all about our fascination with the unknowable or the monstrous. He argues that things like monsters, or in this case, extreme grotesque stunts, violate what he calls our classificatory schema.
Classificatory schema. That is a $10 phrase for sure.
It is. But it just means our mental map of how the world is supposed to work. In our mental map, spiders are things you avoid, not things you eat. In our mental map, dead bodies stay dead. When we see something on screen that fundamentally violates a law of nature as we understand it, it grabs our attention.
Why?
Because our brain is desperately trying to process the new data. It's an anomaly. It doesn't fit into any of our existing folders.
So we stare at it like a deer in headlights because our brain is just flashing this error message. Does not compute, need more information.
Yes, it
Okay.
becomes intellectually magnetic. Even if it's disgusting on a visceral level, it's novel and surprising on a cognitive level. And human brains crave novelty more than almost anything else. We're wired to pay attention to the thing that doesn't belong.
Okay, so that's the psychology. That explains why my brain wants to keep watching this stuff. But now I want to switch gears to the mechanics, the how, because the producers and filmmakers aren't just sitting back and hoping our curiosity kicks in. They are actively, physically hacking our bodies.
This is where we leave the realm of psychological theory and get into hard biology and neuroscience. It's less about why we enjoy it and more about how they make us react.
Let's start with the most basic one, the startle circuit. I read this part of the research and immediately thought of every single jump scare that has ever made me throw my popcorn in the air. This comes from the work of Seth Horowitz, right?
Yes, Horowitz is a neuroscientist who studies hearing. He explains that the startle response is one of the fastest and most primitive neural pathways in the human body. It's a direct connection from your inner ear to the neurons in your spinal cord. And the whole trip takes about 50 milliseconds.
50 milliseconds, that sounds fast.
It's astonishingly fast. To put that in perspective, it takes your brain's cortex, the thinking part, significantly longer to process a conscious thought. So by the time your brain has even registered, oh, that was a loud noise, your body has already jumped.
So the jump isn't a decision I make, it's a pure reflex.
It completely bypasses conscious thought. It's a direct, hardwired line from sound to muscle. It's a precognitive reaction. And filmmakers know this. When they put in that sudden loud bang or that high-pitched screech in a quiet scene, they're not asking you to be scared. They are forcing your body to react physically.
It's like they have a remote control for my nervous system.
They absolutely do. And that physical reflex immediately triggers a chemical cascade. Cortisol, adrenaline, all the fight-or-flight hormones flood your system. But then, milliseconds later, your conscious brain finally catches up. It assesses the situation and says, wait a minute, I'm in a movie theater, I'm on my couch. If there is no actual tiger here, I'm safe.
And that realization is what triggers the good stuff.
That's the dopamine and endorphin release. You get this incredible wash of relief and pleasure. It's a chemical roller coaster they strapped you into. And interestingly, some of the research suggests that people who are thrill seekers, the ones who line up for horror movies and roller coasters, might have a biological predisposition for it.
What, like their brains are just different?
Potentially. One theory is that they have fewer dopamine autoreceptors.
Photoreceptors. Okay, what do those do? Think of them like the brakes on your brain's dopamine system.
That's a great way to think of it. Imagine your brain as a car going down a hill of pleasure. Most people have good brakes. Their autoreceptors regulate the dopamine so they don't get too overwhelmed and can return to normal quickly. Thrill seekers might have weaker brakes. They need more stimulation to get the same baseline feeling of satisfaction, and when they do get that dopamine rush, they ride the high for longer because their system is slower to regulate it.
So Johnny Knoxville.
Johnny Knoxville probably has no brakes at all.
I think that's been medically confirmed at this point. Okay, but it's not just about sudden loud noises, is it? It's the whole visual language of horror and suspense. I was reading about a really simple trick, uplighting.
This is one of the oldest tricks in the book. You hold a flashlight under your chin to tell a scary story. We all know it works, but why?
Because it makes you look like a ghost.
But why does it make you look like a ghost?
Yeah.
The reason is that, in the natural world, our primary life sources, the sun, the moon, are always overhead. Our brains have evolved over millions of years to interpret shadows based on light coming from above.
Okay, that makes sense.
When our brain sees a face lit from below, it registers as profoundly unnatural. It violates our classificatory schema for light. It subconsciously suggests the light source is subterranean. It signals hell or fire from below. It also casts shadows on the face in all the wrong places, hollowing out the eyes, which distorts the face into something that triggers that uncanny valley response.
And what about Dutch angles? I notice this constantly now that I know what it is. That slight tilt of the camera.
It's all about creating a sense of imbalance and unease. Our brain's vestibular system, the part that controls our balance, craves a level horizon line. It's our anchor in the world. When a director intentionally tilts that horizon, it makes us feel a subtle, subconscious nausea. We feel like the world is literally off-kilter, sliding away from us. It's a visual way to tell the audience that the situation is unstable and wrong.
But the thing that really, truly blew my mind, the thing I will never be able to unhear in a movie again, is the marmot study.
Oh, this is the crown jewel. This is where evolutionary biology and sound design have a beautiful, terrifying baby. This is the work of Daniel Blumstein.
So Blumstein is a biologist who studies marmots, which are basically large, furry ground squirrels.
Correct. And he was recording the sounds that baby marmots make when they're terrified, like when they're captured by a predator. And he took these recordings back to his lab and analyzed the sound waves. He found they don't just scream, they scream in a very specific way. He called it nonlinear chaotic noise.
You have to explain what nonlinear means in terms of sound.
Okay, so a normal musical sound, like a note from a piano or a human voice singing, has a regular, predictable, harmonious wave pattern. It's smooth. Nonlinear noise is the opposite. It's chaotic. It's full of sudden, jarring frequency shifts, dissonance, subharmonics. It's a ragged, messy, ugly sound wave. And in the animal kingdom, that kind of sound signifies one thing and one thing only.
I am actively being eaten.
It is the universal sound of a mammal in mortal distress. And because we are also mammals, when a human brain hears nonlinear noise, our amygdala, our fear center, lights up like a Christmas tree. We panic instinctively. It is hardwired into the deepest, oldest parts of our brain.
And horror movie sound designers know this.
They don't just know it. They have perfected it. Think of the most iconic horror sound effect. The violins in the shower scene of Psycho.
Re.
Exactly. Bernard Herrmann was not writing a melody there. He was instructing the violinist to play nonlinear chaotic noise. Those screeching strings are a masterfully crafted acoustic mimic of an animal's death scream.
So when I hear that violin, my inner marmot is screaming, "A hawk has me, run!"
That is precisely what is happening in your brainstem. Even if you see nothing scary on screen, that sound alone is enough to trigger a full-blown panic response. Sound designers use distorted baby cries, the screech of metal on metal, dissonant strings. It's all designed to replicate that biological distress signal.
And it's not just sounds we can hear, is it? There's also infrasound.
Right, these are subharmonics. Sounds with a frequency below 20 hertz, which is just below the threshold of human hearing. You can't consciously hear it, but your body can feel it. The vibrations resonate in your chest cavity, in your organs.
What does that do to you?
It creates this profound sense of unease. It's been linked to feelings of awe, but also deep anxiety, sorrow, and dread. There's a famous experiment where scientists secretly pumped infrasound into a concert hall during a perfectly normal, pleasant musical performance.
Then what happened to the audience?
People in the audience started reporting strange phenomena. They felt a sudden chill. They felt a cold presence in the room. They were overcome with inexplicable sadness. They got goosebumps. The scientists were essentially creating ghosts in the machine purely with low-frequency sound waves.
That is hacking the human soul with a subwoofer.
It is, absolutely.
And this all leads us to the future. Because if they can already do all of this with sound and lighting and camera angles based on intuition, what happens when they start using actual brain scans to perfect it? This is the new field of neurocinematics.
This is the inflection point where we move from artistic intuition to scientific calculation. It's a massive shift.
Okay, so define neurocinematics for us. What is it, actually?
In a nutshell, it's the use of medical imaging technology, primarily fMRI, which is functional magnetic resonance imaging, and EEG to measure the brain activity of an audience while they watch a film.
So instead of a traditional test screening where they give you a questionnaire that asks, "Did you like the ending?" they just put you in a big tube and watch your brain light up.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Because people lie on questionnaires. Or, more often, people don't really know why they liked or disliked something. They can't articulate it. But the data from an fMRI scan, the brain doesn't lie.
There's a researcher at Princeton, Yuri Hassan, who's a huge name in this field.
Yes, Hassan's lab discovered something incredible called neural synchronization. He found that different movie genres affect our brains in fundamentally different ways.
How
If you and I are watching, say, a slow-paced comedy, or just an unscripted video of people walking in a park, our brains are actually doing very different things. Your brain might be focused on a tree in the background. My brain might be focused on a dog in the foreground. Our brain activity is not synchronized.
our minds are wandering.
Exactly. But Hassan found that with high-stakes, high-tension genres, specifically horror, action, and suspense thrillers, the audience's brains lock in. They synchronize. Everyone's amygdala fires at the exact same millisecond during a jump scare. Everyone's visual cortex processes a fast-moving object in the exact same way. The director is essentially hijacking the audience's collective brain and forcing a shared neural state.
That sounds disturbingly like mind control.
In a very real neurological sense, it is. The filmmaker is asserting an unprecedented level of control over the audience's moment-to-moment experience, forcing a collective hallucination.
And this isn't just theoretical. I read about a specific experiment with a horror movie called Pop Skull. This was a company called Mindsign, right?
This is the practical application of the research. Peter Katz, the film's producer, worked with Mindsign. They put a viewer into an fMRI machine and showed them the entire movie. And they tracked, second by second, the activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center.
So they came out of it with a literal graph of exactly when the viewer was scared and how scared they were.
Precisely. And the results were fascinating. They found that there were moments in the film where the director thought he was being really scary, but the viewer's brain was basically flatlining. And then there were other moments, little transitional scenes that were supposed to be filler, that caused huge spikes in the fear response.
So what did they do with that data? You can't just release a movie with a brain scan attached.
They recut the movie. They took the biological data back to the editing room. They trimmed the scenes that didn't register a fear response. They extended the little moments that did. They were literally editing the film to maximize the neural load on the viewer.
James Cameron is obsessed with this stuff too, isn't he?
Cameron is a huge proponent. His whole argument for 3D technology is based in neurocinematics. He believes that 3D engages more neurons in the visual cortex than 2D, creating a state of hyper-reality that stimulates the brain more intensely than the real world can.
This all raises a massive and kind of scary question for me. If you can engineer a movie by algorithm, if you can just look at a spreadsheet of amygdala activity and say, okay, insert jump scare version 4B at minute 42, second 32 to maximize the dopamine response, is it still art?
That is the central controversy, isn't it? It's the debate between creative intuition and calculated precision. Alfred Hitchcock actually predicted this. He once said something like, someday we'll just be able to press buttons and the audience will go, ooh and ah. He seemed to fear, or maybe he hoped, that filmmaking would eventually become a perfect science.
It feels like we're moving towards turning entertainment into a pharmaceutical, just a pure, calculated injection of sensation designed for a specific biological outcome.
The counter-argument, of course, is that all art is manipulation. A composer uses a minor key to make you feel sad. A painter uses warm colors to make you feel happy. Is that a hack? Or is it craft? Maybe neurocinematics is just a more precise tool in the artist's toolkit.
Well, what's the risk?
The risk is homogenization. If the algorithm discovers the perfect scare, then every horror movie will start using that exact same scare.
Yeah.
And we could lose the weird, messy, unpredictable, nonlinear creativity that makes art surprising and interesting in the first place.
The human element.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the psychology, the biology, the future, the fun of fear, but we have to close by acknowledging the dark side of this. Because sometimes the hack works a little too well. Sometimes the fear doesn't just switch off when the credits roll.
We need to talk about the documented phenomenon of cinematographic neurosis.
That sounds like a fake diagnosis you'd get in a movie, but it's a real term from the medical literature.
It is. It's a recognized, albeit rare, psychological condition. It refers to cases where individuals develop genuine, lasting psychiatric symptoms, debilitating anxiety, dissociation, sleep disorders, even psychotic breaks that are directly triggered by watching a film.
The most famous example has to be The Exorcist.
1973. That movie wasn't just a film. It was a cultural trauma event. We've all heard the stories of people fainting, vomiting in the aisles. But beyond that, there were documented medical cases of cinematic neurosis. One famous case study involved a man who watched the film and became delusionally convinced that his own young daughter was possessed by a demon. He projected the film's reality directly onto his own life, with devastating consequences.
And Jaws. I mean, my parents' entire generation was traumatized by Jaws. People were afraid to go swimming in lakes, let alone the ocean.
They were. And beyond that general cultural fear, there's a specific clinical case study of a 17-year-old girl. After seeing Jaws, she started developing non-epileptic seizures. And during these seizures, she would scream "sharks" over and over. She had no prior history of any seizure disorder. The trauma of the film was so intense for her that it manifested in this terrifying physical way.
And then there's the truly tragic case connected to the movie Warlock.
That is a very sad, very extreme example. It involved an adolescent who mimicked a ritual from the film that resulted in a murder. Now, we have to be extremely careful here. In almost all of these severe cases, the Warlock case, the most extreme exorcist cases, the individuals involved almost always had significant pre-existing vulnerabilities.
Right.
We're talking about prior family trauma, borderline personality structures, underlying mental health issues. The movie isn't the sole cause, but it acts as a powerful, potent trigger. It's the spark in a powder keg that was already there.
But it speaks to the incredible power of the medium, and it connects right back to this idea of atavism.
Atavism. This is the idea that, for all our civilization and technology, we're still running on ancient caveman software.
We're just apes in nice shoes.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We have these innate, hardwired fears of things that were threats to our distant ancestors. We have a fear of being meat. We are programmed to fear predators, snakes, spiders, heights, the dark.
Yeah, it was that study they did, right? Showing people pictures of flowers and snakes.
Yes, they'd flash a grid of pictures with one odd one out.
Ooh.
When it was a snake hidden in a grid of flowers, people spotted the snake almost instantly. But when it was a single flower hidden in a grid of snakes, it took them significantly longer to find it.
Our brains are just better at threat detection.
And not just our brains. They've replicated this study with 3-year-old children who have had very little life experience to learn to fear snakes. They have the exact same reaction. We are born with this threat detection software already installed.
It's survival code running in the background of our operating system.
It is. And horror movies and shows like Fear Factor are just constantly, relentlessly pinging that ancient software. They're slamming the threat button over and over. Now, for most of us, our conscious brain can compartmentalize it and say this is safe. But for some vulnerable individuals, that software can get stuck in an active loop. That's essentially what a condition like PTSD is. The threat detection system never turns off.
And it's not just the audience. It can even happen to the actors making the movies.
Oh, absolutely. The classic example is Janet Leigh, the star of Psycho.
The shower scene.
After filming that scene, which they shot over and over for days, she famously couldn't take showers for the rest of her life. She would only take baths. And even then, she would lock all the doors and windows in the house first. Her body had lived through that trauma so many times during the filming process that her nervous system couldn't fully distinguish the performance from a real threat.
Wow. That's the price of the hack. The body keeps the score.
It absolutely does.
So let's bring this all the way back to where we started. Me, on my couch, Sunday night, eating spaghetti, watching Johnny Knoxville cackle while a contestant drinks a blended slurry of sheep parts.
A truly beautiful modern image.
It's a lot to process. But when you look at the whole sprawling picture, from the paradox of disgust that explains why we even want to watch, to the startle circuits and marmot screams that they use to make us jump, all the way to the fMRI machines that are being used to optimize the terror, it all points to one undeniable conclusion. Fear is a currency.
It is. It's a powerful and reliable one. We pay with our attention and our anxiety, and in return, we get a biological jumpstart. We are literally paying media companies to trick our bodies into thinking we're about to die, just so we can feel the euphoric rush of realizing we survived.
It's certainly cheaper than skydiving.
And significantly less paperwork involved.
But here's the final thought I want to leave everyone with, and it goes right back to that neurocinematics discussion. As these scientific tools get better and better, as the House of Fear becomes even more psychologically targeted, and as movies become scientifically perfected delivery systems for fear and dopamine, are we losing something important?
That's the million-dollar question for the future of entertainment.
If we move towards a future where our entertainment is just a button press, a guaranteed, predictable biological reaction, what does that do to our resilience? If we constantly inoculate and desensitize ourselves with this perfect, safe, productized fear, do we lose our ability to cope with messy, unpredictable, real-world fear?
It's a real possibility. If you train your brain over and over that the feeling of fear is always safe, always controlled, and always followed by a pleasant dopamine hit, A genuine, uncontrolled danger might come as a terrible, paralyzing shock to the system.
It's definitely something to mull over next time you're scrolling through your streaming service or tuning into a reality show. So the next time you watch a horror movie, don't just cover your eyes. Listen. Listen to the soundtrack. Look for the uplighting, the Dutch angles. See if you can spot the nonlinear noises. See if you can catch them in the act of hacking your brain.
And maybe. Maybe skip eating spaghetti while you do it.
Excellent advice. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Stay safe out there.